Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ink and Ecstasy with Liz and Grimm. This week, we're talking about words that piss us off as writers. This all came about when I was surprised to find just how many four-letter words there are that are very annoying for one reason or another.
Okay, I'm going to start us off with two words because they work together as demonstrative pronouns. This and that.
Yeah, that is on my list. And,
Are they?
well, the this-that combo in particular, yes, is on my list. Yeah,
Like not this one, but that one.
right.
Because as writers, we should be more descriptive than that. We can do better.
Oh, do you mean in particular this one or that one?
Yeah, or well, also in other uses of the words too, but particularly that one.
Ah, okay. I hadn't really thought about that.
I don't remember seeing that in your writing actually, but I haven't read everything you've written, obviously. But I do it a fair bit. It's just instinctive for me to say this one or that one, and I need to get over it because it's not enough information for the reader. And I just hit my computer.
Did you have any other uses of this and that?
Not particular
Or
ones.
was
Also like that big or that important, using it like that. I don't know if you noticed, but we've said that a lot in this little intro comment. It's just one of those words. It can become invisible, but when you use it too often, it becomes very noticeable.
I hadn't noticed that we had used it that much.
I think just about every other sentence has one of us has said that.
At least once or twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had that also on my list, but as far as for the specific this and that combo, I had it written down as a pronoun use in past tense because this sounds present tense
Yeah.
because it is present tense. This is present tense.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're writing in past tense, as writers are kind of mm, expected to do,
I wouldn't say expected.
it's kind of the norm.
It's the norm, but that's slowly shifting, and I'm not happy about it. But we're gonna talk about that later.
Well, I mean, nobody writes in future tense, do they?
Don't give them ideas.
What about, what is it? Future subjective, past subjective?
Nope.
Okay.
I have not done the research for this. I am too tired for that conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, the word this is present tense, but when you're writing in past tense, I haven't yet figured out how to say, for example, quote, I didn't know if this was the right one, end quote. Should I say, I didn't know if this was the right one? Or should I say, I didn't know if that was the right one?
You could say it. I didn't know if it was the right one.
I suppose you could, but sometimes that doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, it would highly depend on what you're writing, I guess.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of instances, like if, for example, when you said tool, that would work. I didn't know if it was the right tool because everything around that is in past tense. And the tool is already the object, so it is just describing the tool.
Maybe, I don't know if there should be specificity around it in order for there to be ambiguity of which word to use.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about something qualitative, like a manner of thinking, you know, you could say
Right.
something like, I didn't know if that was what I should be thinking about or not.
Right.
Or would it be, I didn't know if I should be thinking about this?
I mean, yeah, honestly, in that situation, I think both work because this is calling back to what you're talking about rather than being an actual distance in time. You're talking about the object of what you're thinking. Do you know what I mean? It's referring back to the item you're thinking about, not that you're thinking or when you're thinking.
I don't know.
It can be really complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that one day I need to look up the stupid rule
there's probably a rule about it and then like 50 exceptions. That's why I don't adhere to the rules of grammar. Like, I know them. I don't know all of them, but I know a fair few of them. And I don't always stick to them because sometimes they interrupt the flow of the story. And I think that's more important.
I do have one word on my list that I blatantly ignore every time it comes up. And I know I'm supposed to use it.
All right, let's hear that one.
Whom. I can't stress to you enough how much I fucking hate that word. I refuse to use it just because it sounds so utterly fucking pompous. I fucking hate that word so much.
Yeah, I will rewrite sentences to avoid it because, not for that reason, not because I think it sounds pompous, which it does, but because I can never remember whether I'm supposed to use who or whom. So I will just rewrite the sentence until I know which one I'm supposed to use.
I just always use who. I just don't even care. If I ever do a grammar check and word says, "Did you mean whom?" I just say, "Fuck you. No, I didn't. I did not mean whom." Because nobody fucking says that. Nobody, literally nobody says that word except for like English teachers. You know what I'm saying? Nobody fucking says that word.
I have to say, the only people I've actually heard say that word are British. But then again, I grew up in the South, so it's probably not a very popular word to always down there.
Well, I mean, I've never heard anyone on TV or in a YouTube video or in any other form of media say the word whom ever. And they aren't restricted to the South.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And there's nothing stopping British people from being on television or in YouTube videos or whatever. So, I mean, there's been
There's a
plenty of
fair few
time,
of them.
and I've literally never once, ever once, heard someone say the word whom except in a classroom setting where I was literally sitting in a classroom being taught English about how it's supposed to be spoken or written. You know what I'm saying?
Never spoken, always written. All grammar rules go out the window as soon as you switch from narration to dialogue, because it only matters how that person would talk.
Well, when you're in a story, I mean, sure, yeah. But I think still, well, no. I mean, I guess actually, when you're in English class, that's really just for writing. You're just learning the
Right.
rules of writing.
For
You're not
writing,
really
yeah.
learning how to talk.
No. Although, admittedly, I was not a very good conversationalist as a child. So I absolutely took those grammar rules to heart when I spoke to people, and I sounded fucking robotic. I learned. I learned how not to talk to people by doing that.
Well,
Look, I didn't talk to people much.
and then everything went downhill from there, didn't it?
Basically, yeah. Now I have a fucking blast when I talk.
Uh,
Yeah, who is one of those words? I use it, but I use it sparingly because I don't like being wrong about how I use it. And it trips me up. Who and whom trip me up.
I just flatly refuse to use the word, and I won't even rewrite my sentence. I'll just say, nah, fuck it. It's fine.
What about whomever?
No, no.
You won't use whomever either?
Fuck that word too. No. Whoever.
Whosoever?
Whoever needs to be mentioned in my story will be mentioned in whatever way that I choose to refer to them.
Ah, that's fair. As long as you're
And
consistent.
that's all you need to know.
I will keep that in mind for future editing purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm nothing if not consistent. It's just
You are very consistent, yes.
yeah. Well, you want to go into the next word?
Yeah, I will introduce one that has a bit of a generational lean to it. Like.
Yep, that is on my list.
Like, I'm sorry, but like.
What is the type of speech?
Participle.
Participle. Okay. Can you give us an example?
Like, totally? Yeah.
I had that as an interjection.
I think it might be able to be both.
I don't even know that I even looked it up. Okay, so it is a word or expression that occurs as an utterance on its own and expresses a spontaneous feeling or reaction. So no, that would not be an interjection. So I guess we'll go with whatever you said, participle or something like that.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Well, I mean, informally, I just looking it up on dictionary.com, so yeah. Informally, it can be used as an interjection like that. As in, so like, why didn't you call me? Or something like that. They actually don't have any examples of it as a participle.
Like, you didn't have time to come up with an example?
Yeah, that would be an interjection. I had a link earlier that I looked up where it showed it as a participle and an interjection and how they were slightly different. Okay, so these are the examples that shows with like uses a participle. I said participle. I meant particle.
Ah, yes.
I fucked that up majorly. Did I write down participle or did I just misread it? Yeah, I completely fucking misread it in my note.
How?
The particle.
How would a particle or an article?
Yeah. It lists particle.
What the fuck is a particle? Particle is a word that has a grammatical function but does not fit into the main parts of speech.
The examples are she was like so happy, or there were like 20 of them. I was like, why did you do that? And he's like, I don't know. That was the intent of how I meant to use it. So not participle, like me being an idiot saying that. Particle.
Do you want to do the next one too, since we...
No, I want you to do the next one because I don't want to lead off on another one and fuck up again.
Well, you have more than me, and you didn't have an example lined up for that one. So...
No, I did.
You know.
I said, like, totally. I literally said it when I said the thing. That was my example.
All right. So you're going to go with the next... you're going to do the next word then, right?
Fine.
Yes. Okay.
The next one I put down as a verb, and it's just one that I overuse. Gaze. I have to edit it out of a lot of my work because I horribly abuse that word. Like, there has got to be a better word or another word I can use for looked at another person in a particular way. You know? But gaze gets that across, and it's so easy to just fall back on that and rely on that, and then you read through it and you're like, this 5,000 word, little short story has gaze as 50 of the fucking words.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh no, there's definitely something wrong with that.
You totally missed my Seinfeld reference, but that's okay.
I've never watched Seinfeld.
Wait, huh?
I've never watched Seinfeld. Well, I take that back. I've probably seen an episode or two here or there.
Okay, well, we're... Okay.
No, I am not watching Seinfeld.
Cough. We're not... Okay, I'm not gonna force you to watch the entire show, okay? But there are probably like 2 or 3 episodes that you probably need to see. Double cough. In particular, the one that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
But, we can get back to that later.
All right.
So, anyway, back to gaze. Yeah, any word with a Z, you really need to be careful with, because people are going to hone in on those fucking things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gaze like indicates a specific type of, like, a specific way of looking at somebody. You have a mental image just from that one word.
Yeah, it is a good word.
It's hard to switch that up with something else because it doesn't convey the right feeling sometimes. But you have to, because you can't use that like for a 10th of your story or 100th of your story, rather.
Yeah, I just tend not to use the word.
I use it a lot, like a lot.
I actually only use it when I want to break up whatever other words that I'm using, like looked at, stared at, glanced, or whatever.
I don't use those as much, like looked at, stared at. I use glanced. The gaze is just one I fall into, and like I just get caught up in it. It's so easy to use to get a specific feeling across.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the word. There's nothing wrong with using the word. Just don't abuse it like I do.
Oh man, this is hysterical.
Admitting my own faults as a writer.
It'll make sense later.
What's your next fucking word?
Well.
That is on my list.
I use it a lot in dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't want to have to come up with another example, but then I kind of had to do it anyway, so I just did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is one of the ones I did not get around to making notes for, so I'm gonna let you lead this one. But yeah, that is on my list too. It's easy to overuse that.
Yeah, I just find in dialogue, when you want people to sound like people instead of NPCs,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to say things like, oh yeah, and well, and like, and sure, you don't want to overdo it, but then a well is just so good because it has this kind of built-in hesitance to it. So you don't need to say,
it sets a tone.
Yeah, you don't need to say, well, I think so, he said hesitantly.
Right.
It's implied.
It's implied, yeah. It's right there.
And that's what's so great.
That's kind of like when you say something like, well, fuck. To follow that up with, she said with exasperation or something like that. That's obvious. There's no other way to say, well, fuck. At least not without adding more words.
Yes, you could.
You can say that in other ways?
Yes.
Example?
As a command, if you are speaking to your sentient source of fresh water and you are commanding it to fornicate.
Is it your only source of water? Because I wouldn't recommend that.
Well, how else are you going to get more water?
As amusing as that is. I don't know how to follow that up.
I don't even know where that came from. It's just so.
Yeah, I'm the one running on 3 hours sleep. You're not supposed to be the weird one tonight.
Well, what's our next word?
I'll go with very.
Ooh. I did not put that on my list, but yeah, that is a really good word. Well,
a good word to include on the list of what not to use.
Right, yeah.
And it is not just because of Dead Poets Society.
I don't remember that coming up.
Really?
But it's probably been 10 or 15 years since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, like there's this whole speech on very not using it. But yeah, Mr. Keating goes into a whole thing about the word very and how it's lazy and how you should use stronger verbs. And he's right. Like, a man is not very tired. He's exhausted. Don't use very sad. Use morose, that kind of thing. But yeah, like, it's easy to fall into using very because it's kind of a more natural, I guess, speech pattern, like speech use. Because when you're talking to somebody, you're more likely to say it's very cold outside than to say, like, it's freezing outside,
Right. In dialogue, I will use very more often.
Yeah, that's about the only acceptable use of it is when it's in dialogue. But you should always try to use a strong verb in narration.
Yeah, well, if it's my character's thoughts, then I'll stick with very more often than not.
Well, thoughts are basically a form of dialogue.
It's just inner dialogue that you don't necessarily hear in your head.
Right. Except for I do. Weird person who doesn't have an inner monologue.
I still don't know if the inner monologue is supposed to be something that you're supposed to hear or not, because people just refer to it as thoughts.
What is a monologue?
Oh, you're going to pull what is the definition of the word crap on me? Really?
It felt fitting to refer to it that way.
I don't know necessarily that inner monologue means it's something that you hear. Maybe it is.
Let's put that out as a question to our few listeners that we have right now. If you have an inner monologue, is it thoughts or just do you hear it?
Okay. So we're on very.
We're on very. And you did not have that one written down.
As in, that was a very long sidebar.
Yeah.
But, so what would you say other than very long? Lengthy?
Lengthy would work.
He had a lengthy cock. Nobody would say that.
No, they would probably say pencil dick or something like that.
Just because you have a long schlong doesn't mean it's gonna be an itty bitty skinny.
I wonder if anybody's gonna start using like boba straw for that.
What? What are you talking about?
Nothing.
No. Out with it. What did you say?
So I said boba straw.
Can you spell that?
BOBA. Straw.
Okay.
A boba straw is a straw that is extremely wide compared to a normal straw because they are meant for drinking boba, which is a type of tea made with tapioca pearls, which are very large.
I'm just gonna say okay, and then we can move on to the next subject. Can we?
Yeah.
All right. What's the next word?
Next word. Let's see. I just did that one. You have to do the next one.
Well, you have more words than me.
Most of mine are verbs.
What?
What?
That's my next word.
Yeah, I know. What?
Used as a question, as an interrogative. Again, I find that I use it a lot because that's what people do in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But in dialogue, in a story, it just feels wrong somehow.
I can see that sometimes. Yeah, I can see that sometimes. But sometimes it's fitting.
Sometimes, yeah. I just find that many times I want to use it, and then I kind of just have to force myself to use something else because it just isn't gonna, flow right.
One of the ways I use it a lot is or one of the ways I would use it a lot is when responding to someone that you want the character to have maybe heard but not processed what they said. And so they would like instinctively turn to the person and say, what? But I often, instead of saying what, will go, you know, that kind of thing. Still a question, but without the word.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can feel more natural because, yeah.
That works, yeah.
It's more of an action than a comment, but it's both.
Yeah. Right.
And also, I found that in real life, when you respond to somebody who you heard but didn't process what they said with what, especially more than once, they get a little crotchety.
You know what, really, this is like the worst thing ever when somebody says something twice and you still haven't heard them. And then you, and then you're just like, I am so sorry. Can you please just say that one more time? I'm mildly retarded. Just one more time. I swear that I'll catch it this next time. I really will.
Do you ever find yourself like looking at their mouth to make sure you're hearing what they're saying correctly?
I know.
I do that.
That would probably throw me off because I would be, yeah. I don't know.
But like, yeah, when I am talking to somebody and I don't necessarily process what they say, usually I've heard it. Like I heard what they said, but my brain is just like,
yeah,
we did not absorb that at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so I say what, or, you know, I ask them to repeat themselves and they repeat themselves. And if I still don't catch it, for one thing, I'm embarrassed as hell. And there's a 50-50 shot I will ask them to say it again. And a 50-50 shot that I will just agree and pretend like I heard them. And hope I didn't just like admit to murder or something.
Oh my God. That's another Seinfeld episode. Okay. But if after the second time I still haven't heard them, I try to not think about it. I try not to act like I'm like processing it. Those are just the worst. Mm-hmm. Absolute worst situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is the worst. I had a job working as a waitress, and I got into the habit of repeating back what people say to me when I'm taking their order.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've taken to using that a little bit when I don't process what somebody says. I will say, you know, I heard this, this, and this. What did you say between those? Like, I didn't catch the in-between part. Can you repeat that part for me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be so incredibly frustrating.
What you want to know what's really more frustrating is when, let's say you said, I went to the store and got some milk. If I didn't catch what you said after the word store, and so I might ask, what did you get at the store? And then the person repeats their entire sentence. I went to the store and I got some milk. And it's like, no shit, I know you went to the fucking store. I just asked what you got there because I didn't hear you. I know you went there, or it wouldn't have been into my question. Shit drives me bonkers.
There are just some people that cannot break down their answer like that. They cannot separate those things. It's all one thing for them. So they have to repeat the whole thing. Which, yeah, can be frustrating.
All right.
So.
What's the next word?
Let's go with much.
Okay, and what's your example?
One of the ways that I use it that I have to edit out all the time is, think of how I word this. I didn't write it down. This is one of the ones I did not get to. Or at least not properly.
I would much rather do this than that.
Well, that's one way of doing it, but it's a specific way I talk that I use it that I have to edit out because it's just weird. Like one of the ways I use it is there's not much to do about that, or this isn't that much different. Things like that. Like I have to edit that stuff out because it just doesn't. It breaks the flow of reading to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of like one word on my list. Just.
That's my next word. Yeah.
There are a number of different ways that I find that I use this word. Sometimes I use it to mean simply,
Mm-hmm.
as in, it's just a matter of time. Why not just say, it's a matter of time?
Right. It's almost like a qualifier.
And then sometimes I use it to mean only. He just wanted to fuck her brains out. Yeah. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Or she just wanted to get fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, just is one of those words it becomes so easy to rely on, and it always, like, I don't think there's ever a time where it doesn't diminish or soften the verb that it's used in front of or around. The only ways I can see it being useful necessarily is within dialogue when you're trying to indicate that your character is either nervous or insecure, or they're trying to like talk someone down in a situation. Otherwise, it's not really needed, and it slows down the flow of the story.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But there are times when it can be used. Like, she just got out of the car. That's fine, you know?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But yeah, there are times where in dialogue, it's really not needed.
Yeah, within dialogue, it cannot be needed. But it's good to convey nervousness or insecurity.
Yeah. And it's really just a way, to express the nervousness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the other example that I had was in dialogue, and that's using the word versus nothing at all. So, person one asks, "Why are you acting like this?" Second person says, "I just don't want to go."
Mm-hmm.
They can just say, "I don't want to go."
That's how I use it a lot.
That's it. That's all they have to say is, "I don't want to go."
That is how I use a lot, and I've got to edit those out. Yeah. That is part of that nervousness and insecurity coming through, though. So if your intent is to create a nervous character, I would leave it in. But if your character is supposed to be confident and sure of themselves, that needs to go.
Oh, yeah. Sure. But
It's never necessary, like in that situation.
if I want to convey nervousness or hesitancy, I will use an ellipses.
Well, this is more about like getting insecurity across. For me, that's more a trailed off thought.
Well, I mean, instead of saying, "I just don't want to go," with no punctuation of any kind in there, just words and then a period at the end, full stop.
So just I ellipses and then I don't want to go.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, I might use the word just, but I would say, "I just don't want to go."
Oh, okay. To indicate that pause. Okay. See it like if I was writing that sentence, I would possibly do something similar, but instead of continuing the sentence after the fact, I would have the character restart it with, I just ellipses and then I don't want to go.
Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. It kind of
a reset of the thought.
yeah. It really kind of depends.
But that's usually when I'm
Because sometimes it'll be in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
Where they'll trail off, and it's like I'm not going to have them repeat the entire sentence,
Right.
So it really just kind of depends.
That's kind of the situation where if I have a confident character and I want them to come across as confident and they messed up like that, I want them to correct themselves,
Yeah.
And that shows that, maybe they're not confident all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like subtle things like that. Like that can be such a subtle thing to do and not a lot of people will catch it.
Yeah.
But it can say a lot towards the emotion or the maturity or the capabilities of another character by how they would approach accidentally saying something like that, which I think is something that some writers, I don't know if they don't think about it or if they don't consider it maybe when they're writing or editing, but sometimes mistakes should stay in because it shows a little bit of dimension for the character.
Yeah.
So, like, all of these words we're saying, sometimes they can be used in a way that is almost a subversion of the issue that we're talking about with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be really useful. So, yeah, there are times when I think it's more beneficial to leave the word in there than it is to do a find and replace all and get rid of it. Like, even very, and I hate very. So.
Yeah, there are some times where you do kind of need to use it, but yeah, many times I find that I'm going through and I'm deleting them.
Yeah.
Because I found that I've used it far too many times than I should have.
Yeah, I typically do a search to see how many times I used a particular word like that. And then I'll go through each instance and see, do I need it here? Does it convey what I want it to? Can I use a better word? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is no. Like, I need it. It is doing what I want it to do, but I can't use a better word.
You could say that about many of the words on our list, I think.
Yeah. I think they always have a place.
Oh, yeah.
Just as long as we don't abuse them, like I do.
Right. So, what's our next word?
I will go back to my verbs. And we do erotica. So, this one comes up a lot, at least for me.
Fuck.
Moan. No, fuck I love.
Oh, moan. Oh, God. I did not even think about... Yeah, moan and...
Moan and gasp are on my list.
I think part of the reason I didn't even think about those is because in past tense, you're not saying he moan or she moan.
Right. But the base word is there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to get into that, then this could be a very extensive list. Because there are a lot of 4-letter verbs that are really, really fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but these are the main ones for me. My whole list of verbs are gaze, soft, pale, moan, and gasp.
Yeah, jeez. Oh, and pant.
Pant, yeah. I didn't have that written down, but yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I actually just came across that in a story. I'm like, it's not a fucking dog. Like, I need to adjust this.
Well, I mean...
It wasn't a werewolf story. It doesn't belong. At least not that many times.
Okay, well, maybe that's just a personal preference.
I mean, how many times can you pant before you fucking pass out? I mean...
Well, you just mix it up.
They've overgasped.
You aren't going to use it all the time. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's not even going to be your primary word, really.
But I just came across a story that I've been editing where I did that. And I had to fix it because there were just too many.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't a werewolf story. So.
Well.
Like a werewolf panting I can understand. That seems logical to me. Human, not so much.
Yeah. I mean...
It's hard because there are only so many verbs like that we can use to get the feeling across of the action. The feeling of the action across. Without using 20 words in place of one. You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes being concise is worth it. And other times, I want to get wordy.
All right. Next word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah? Oh, yeah? Fucking way too much. It comes up way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. But at the same time, I do nothing about it in editing because I don't know what to do about it. In dialogue, it feels natural, so I just go with it. It's kind of like whom. I just say fuck it. I don't really care. It is something that annoys me, but I can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that if you're saying it in response to a question, like, do you want to do this? And they're like, yeah. The only other option there would be something like, uh-huh. And I have found that that tends to trip people up because they read it as huh or uh-uh. Or if you write down they'll read it as uh-huh, which completely switches the meaning of the thing you're trying to say. So those things can be very difficult to substitute.
Yeah, I actually didn't really even know how to read uh-huh and uh-uh until I started writing. And then
Yeah,
it was at that point that I realized that I probably shouldn't use it.
no, it's better not to use it, or at least try not to. If you want the answer to be quick, it works. Like if they're in the middle of something else and they need to, even saying yeah or no doesn't feel natural in that moment, I can see using them. But those are things that once per story at most. Unless like you're trying to make a point, like you want a character to be trying to prove a point to somebody, and the other person is very slowly getting it, and they're like, uh-huh, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have used it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, all of these words, all of them have instances where you're gonna have to use them.
Right. Or else they wouldn't be a word.
Right. It's a matter of using them in a way that,
A time and a place.
yeah, it serves its purpose, it functions well, it doesn't detract from the story or the plot or the flow, and it's needed above all else. That word is needed, you know?
Yeah.
So, how many words do you have left on your list?
You're just ignoring that.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I use the word, whatever word it is, you're just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, moving on. Yep.
I have 3 words left.
Fuck. I have 6.
So, what is your next word? Fuck?
Fuck is not on my list. I am never going to edit fuck out.
Okay. So, what's your next 2 words then?
Will and were.
Okay, is that a combo or?
You asked what my next 2 words are.
Oh, well, no, I mean, say one and then give the example and then we talk about it and then you say the next one.
You said 2 words. I said 2 words.
What's our next word?
We'll go with will. As in, that will happen. These things will be done. Sometimes it's necessary. It's just I use it a lot and I have to rework some sentences so that I'm not using it, 3 times in a paragraph.
Yeah, I think for words like will and had and did and is, if it's in dialogue, then I just make a contraction.
Right.
Because, yeah, that is something that does sound very kind of dry,
Mm-hmm.
and like wooden and, yeah, just very bland and
Mm-hmm.
robotic sounding almost when it's in dialogue or when it's thoughts. But if it's narration, then yeah, you probably want to leave the contractions out of there.
Yeah. Unless it's first person and you are basically doing the whole thing in conversational form, then it's okay.
Well, yeah.
But it
There
still
is that.
can get a bit much.
Yeah.
So again, time and place, no one.
Yeah.
Will is one of those words that I got in trouble with as a kid because I didn't use the contraction because we were taught grammar and I was going with grammar for speaking. So I was always saying, yes, I will do that. Sounding like a good little robot. But I grew out of that. So that's something I'm still working on editing out of my writing because I still do have people talking like that in dialogue and I'm trying to make it more natural sounding. But in order for that to happen, I have to be a human and make my own speech patterns more natural sounding.
But humaning is so hard.
It really is. It is so hard sometimes. I'm just trying to act like the best of them, and like I'm failing every which way.
Yeah. All right. And then, what's your next word?
Were. It has the same problem as will. Works as a contraction in dialogue, but can be overused very easily.
It works as a contraction, as in
we're, as in we were,
Oh, that's really funny. I never really thought about that before. Probably not since being in school, but yeah, we're is basically we were, and you're basically just,
saying were.
yeah,
Yeah. And adding an apostrophe.
you're throwing out the we, and you're just putting an apostrophe in the middle of were, and it's we were.
That is why it autocorrects like that all the time, I think, on my phone. Every time I write were, it tries to autocorrect to we're.
Yeah, I wish I could turn that one off. Because I never fucking say we're. And if I'm going to say we're, I'll put the fucking apostrophe in there, damn it. You don't need to do it for me.
Yeah, every time I go to write were on my phone, it tries to fix it to we're. And the only time I can recall using the word we're was when I was talking to my husband on a text.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're out of milk or something like that. Something stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah, I put the fucking apostrophe in there myself. And it didn't try to correct it to were. So what's up with that? Why is it only one-sided?
I think it's a conspiracy, honestly.
And not enough people are using we're?
Yeah.
Too many are using were?
Yeah, so your word is were. So your example is using it where you're not putting it into a contraction with a pronoun.
Right.
Yeah, I actually had were on my list versus was. So
Okay.
the example is if it's a hypothetical situation, you have to use were, no matter what the subject is. If it's I or you or they, you use were. That's the rule. And it does sound right, and it's really funny because at first I was actually typing out were, and then I would be going through later and I would be reading it and I would think, oh, I should probably change that to was. And then later I do the grammar check and it's like, oh, I had it right the first time. Anyway, the example, you would say, if I were to. You wouldn't say, if I was to, whatever. But if you were to say,
What?
I just used the example to set up another example. If you used the verb to be in past tense in the first person, you would say I was. But then in a hypothetical future tense, even though you're talking about past tense, when you're writing in the past tense,
Right.
you still have to change what the tense is to the future tense, right?
Make things nice and fucking complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it gets really tricky because sometimes you do have to change tense. Sometimes you have to say things in the present because when your characters are talking to each other, they aren't
Right.
talking in the past tense all the time. They're saying stuff like, I'm going to the store. What are you going to the store for? Well, I'm going to buy some fucking milk. Don't you remember? I told you earlier. We had a long conversation about it. For fuck's sake. Don't you pay attention? Yeah. Shit like that. You know what I'm talking about.
One of the things that trips me up with tense, though, is when you have like a string of actions happening in the past tense, but they have a certain flow to them. So it's like almost like you have to have a conditional present tense to some part to make the flow happen the way you want it to.
Do you have an example?
Not offhand. We can get into this another time, but It's like, she did this first, then that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I opened the door and then stepped through it.
Yeah, speaking of which, then is on my list.
Then is not on my list. That is unusual. That is unexpected.
Well, then.
Yeah.
As an adverb. Yeah. So, 2 cases. Remembering to use it after if, because sometimes I forget, like in dialogue, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's using then versus and.
And the two of them together.
In a conditional statement, right? So
I try not to use them together because it is annoying to me.
I don't know how you would use them together, but my example is...
You just did.
No, I said, then there's using it versus and.
Before you said that, you said and then. You're going to hear it when you go back to edit this, and you're going to be annoyed that I'm right.
I was starting to say and then versus and, but then I realized that I needed to say, and then there's using then versus and.
You just said it again, and then.
Okay. Well, and then. Yeah, sure. That's okay.
I try not to use them because that annoys me. Because people often when they use and then, they get into this like string of actions, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to avoid it so I don't do that kind of stuff.
I could see how that could get out of control really quickly.
Mm-hmm. It can become a crutch.
But yeah, so yeah, my example is I'll go to the grocery store and make dinner. Apparently, all of my examples are about going to the fucking store. What the fuck? So
apparently, you need to go to the store and get some milk or something.
I do. Apparently, I'm in desperate need of milk. I'm over here moaning and gasping for milk because I need it so very, very much.
Yep, that would go in fetish.
So, right, I'll go to the grocery store and make dinner. So technically, you could use then instead of and. But it's kind of implied that dinner would come after going to the store anyway. So saying, I'll go to the grocery store, then make dinner, why would you do that? You know? Why would you say it like that? Like, why are you going to put a pause in the middle of the sentence when you don't need to?
It depends.
Just get through the fucking sentence.
I can see that being used if you're talking to someone and like there's a reasoning behind it. Like, they need to know your plan.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to make dinner first? Or are you going to go to the store after? Like, you know, maybe you don't need the stuff you're making for dinner from the store.
Well, I mean...
You clarify, I'm going to go to the store first and then make dinner.
Who's going to go to the grocery store after they make dinner?
For the next day.
No. People do that.
I fucking do that.
People do that on their way home from work or... Well, yeah, but people don't work at night. People don't live at night. I'm talking about dinner as in the last meal of the day, not the meal you eat when the sun is going down.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, yeah.
What's your next word?
Alas. There is no fucking reason to ever use that word now. Please don't.
That's a word that annoys you?
Yeah. It's a little pretentious.
I can't even tell you the last time that I read that word.
I have written it and I've edited it out every single time. I think it's one of those words that sometimes people use without meaning to, and then they edit it out because they realize it sounds real fucking pretentious.
You know when it sounds real fucking pretentious? And this is something that... This is a 4-letter word. Okay, I'm adding a new 4-letter word to my list. But this is not a word that I use when I'm writing stories. Now, this is something that I might use when I'm writing emails at work or something. Right?
Okay.
Thus.
Thus, yes.
Just don't ever fucking use that word.
Same as last. Yes, it falls in the same category.
Just say therefore. Or for that reason.
Yeah.
Something like that. Don't say fucking thus.
Yeah, it makes you sound real bad.
Yeah.
The only time I can see using it is for thus far, like as in so far.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but using it to make a point. No. That's right out.
But alas is the same way. It's like, alas, it's no, just don't use it. There's no reason to use that. Unless you're writing a period piece, then it's okay.
Maybe.
For the right period. It has to be the right period because, yeah. There is literally a time and place you can use that word.
Wow. All right.
So what's your next word?
I only have one word left.
You only have one word left. I have 3.
Well,
I said 5 at once. How do you only have one word left?
you did not do 5 at once. Okay, well, technically you did moan, gasp.
Gaze, soft, pale, moan, and gasp. We did all those at once.
No, gaze was earlier.
Yeah, I brought it back up after.
Okay.
I said I have 5 verbs on my list. Gaze, soft, pale, moan, and gasp. We'll do them all together.
Soft?
Soft.
And pale?
And pale.
Well, soft and pale aren't verbs, so why did we skip over those?
Oh, soft actually isn't a verb, is it? It was in my list of verbs, but I have it marked as an adjective and adverb.
You could say that he softened.
But yeah, verb can be a verb. Pale can be a verb. Paled in fear.
Or, yeah, paled in comparison.
Yeah.
So you use it as in what? Are you saying that you use pale as in a verb too much?
Sometimes.
And then soft? How do you use soft?
Soft hair, said softly, soft skin.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. Yeah.
Softly colored.
Oh, God. That is annoying. Yeah.
I had it in the middle of my verbs, but then I didn't actually read the note I had beside it, which has it as an adjective and adverb. I didn't order these in order. I just saw 4 verbs together, and I just assumed they were all verbs. So.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So that was on me. I messed up. But I also have pale down as an adjective that I use too much.
That's very
me
syntactically prejudiced of you. So what's your next word?
Well, I guess it was soft and pale.
Well, you have 3 more words on your list, and then I have 1.
All right, we will do all 3 of my words at once then.
Okay.
Some, only more.
I think some and more can go together because those are both the same kinds of things, but
usage.
I think only should maybe be handled separately.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do some and more first and end it on only.
And then there's some more.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah.
So what is your example?
With some and more?
Yeah.
These are the ones I did not get to. Like, man, I'm running on 3 hours of sleep here.
Hey, we talked about this days ago.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I haven't had time to do anything on it.
Well, you've had more time than me.
I know. I also had more words than you, though.
Well, I'm sure that you can think of an example. Would it be like, get some of those crayons and draw a self-portrait?
No. I think it's more like when you're responding to a question, maybe. Like, how often do you do something, whatever, and you answer, I guess, I had it written down as a response. I know that. I can't think of what it was in a response to, though.
Maybe, have you been skiing much? Some.
Yeah, stuff like answers like that. Only, not involving skiing.
All right.
And with more, it's the same thing. It's just how much more,
I don't.
That's what I meant as an example. How much more? Like more. Like,
oh.
There's gotta be a better reference point to use than more.
How much more is it going to take?
Yeah.
I mean, you could always just say the thing that you're...
How much is it going to take?
Yeah.
That works.
But then you could say that depending on the situation, you do need to say more because then,
Yeah, but that's the case for every single word we've done.
Well, yeah.
There's always going to be an exception.
I'm just saying that when it's that example and it's in dialogue, your character should say the word more, just like you would want to do that in real life, because in real life you can make mistakes. Because if you said, say you were, making a cake, right? So you're baking your cake.
Adding milk.
You're like putting everything in there, and you've already put 1 cup of milk in the bowl. And then you say to your, helper monkey who's right there, helping you, make your cake. And you assume incorrectly that they've already seen you put in the cup of milk. And then you say, how many cups of milk do I need to put in this? And then they tell you, well, you need to put in 8 cups of milk. I have no idea how much milk goes into a cake. So I know 8 is an insane amount.
But... yeah. Depends on how big of a cake you're making. Wedding cake, maybe.
And then so you're like, maybe they need to put in only 2 cups of milk, right? But they didn't see the first one go in. And then so they say, well, 2 cups. And then so the person asking is thinking, right, 2 more cups. I am on it. And then they fuck up their cake.
Mm-hmm. You would not believe how common that is.
Well, milk is it's very important. Not enough people give milk enough credit.
True.
And they really should.
Maybe milk should be on our list.
Oh, man.
Outside of fetish, it should just be nixed. There's no reason anybody needs milk outside of fetish. Now I want to write a fetish story about baking.
That would be a really interesting one.
Like, how sexual can you make baking?
You can twist everything into some kind of sexual innuendo.
Me specifically, or people in general?
People in general.
Okay. Either way, accurate, but yeah. What's your last word?
My last word is that.
That.
Yeah. Conjunction that. The 2 instances, there's that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was what I was looking for. It's kind of the same thing with had, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should always be avoided. That is definitely something that needs to be reworded.
Yeah, whenever that comes up, I 100%, I chop up the sentence. I'll do whatever it takes. I will not do that. I won't do it.
I will do it only within dialogue again. Pretty much all of my exceptions are within dialogue.
I mean, I can't even do that in dialogue, because then I think that it just slows the reader down.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you have to go back and read it, because whenever you see a word used twice in a row, it just makes you do a double take,
Mm-hmm.
And then my other example is, well, the other kind of instance is using it versus not using it at all. So my example is, he said he would do it, or you could say, he said that he would do it. Is either one more correct than the other? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And so I find that it's one of those things where I like to add it in, because I've actually found sometimes when I'm reading someone else's story and I don't know what's going to happen, that it actually does throw me off sometimes when that isn't used. But when I'm actually writing, though, I find that it's kind of an annoying thing to have to make sure that I add in. You don't have any thoughts on that? Okay.
Not really, no. Yeah, I get what you mean on it, yeah.
All right. So you're going to wrap this thing up with the last word?
Only. And only when it's used for emphasis on a specific thing. Like, they only played soccer. They only watched comedy. Things like that. I don't think it's necessarily necessary. It's not wrong. But nobody only does one thing like that. There's always some exception. Right?
I don't know that I really use that word too much.
I don't use it a ton, but like when I do use it, I notice it.
Hmm.
Like it was only then that she noticed whatever, you know?
Oh, well, in such a case, I would say it was at that time that she noticed blah, blah, blah.
Right. There's other ways of wording it, but like, yeah, it's just a word that can usually be skipped. And if it's only being used for emphasis, I mean, it's so limiting. And in a lot of cases, unless your narrator is third person omniscient, there's no way to know if they're only doing that one thing, you know? Or if they're only limited to that one thing. So it feels disingenuous to use it outside of that situation.
Right. Okay, well.
A real, like, downer of an ending.
Yeah.
There wasn't very climactic at all.
That wraps up an exciting episode of Ink and Ecstasy with Liz and Grimm. Liz, do you want to tell people where they can find our work and how to subscribe to the podcast and all that good stuff?
You click subscribe to subscribe. You can do that on our website called inkandecstasy.com. There's literally a button on our podcast page that says subscribe, real big. Can't miss it.
Cool. And what does it look like? The people need to know. They need to know what it looks like.
It looks like, let me see. Oh, it's not on the fucking website. It's only on the website on the phone.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, well,
we're gonna have to look into that.
So that's gonna do it for this week. Thanks for listening. And if you made it all the way to the end, make sure to follow the podcast so you can get notifications on future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our work on inkandecstasy.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.